One.
Hi, this is Universal Design for students with ADHD and or dyslexia. I am presenting this in a PowerPoint slideshow. I chose two disabilities, ADHD and or dyslexia, because I have a couple of students that have these disabilities, particularly the ADHD. I have several. In one class, I probably have 4 or 5 kids. So the modifications I get from their monitors or their home teachers, we call them, don't address the things that are addressed in the research this week. So I'm looking forward to discussing this with them. Students that have ADHD need to be seated near the teacher and away from distractions. So keeping them away from windows and doors, if possible, is always a good idea. Students with ADHD need to take breaks often. There's a water fountain right outside of my room, and the project that we work on has numbered steps. So I think it would be a good idea to say every 3 steps they could take a break, come back, do another 3 steps, take another break, come back, and so on. Hopefully this will keep them on task and they'll get the breaks that they need. There are several tools that can be used to reduce fidgeting. As we all know, the fidget spinner seems to be everywhere right now. I have some stress balls. I have a little cat toy that after I've done this project, I realized that it's always the ADHD kids that are always touching my toys, and it should have made sense to me. It should have been obvious, but it wasn't. Now it is. Cues to keep the student on task can include making eye contact and touching their shoulder. Since we work with Google, another way that I can keep in contact with them is to send them a private message periodically and tell them, get back to work. My students are required to email me, all students, at the end of each class, so this will especially help the ADHD student who benefits by checking in with the instructor. This way they can tell me if they're having problems with something, if they're struggling, if they just need to talk to me, because they need to constantly talk to me. Students with dyslexia, it's a slightly different approach. I'm using it in this slideshow where I don't use multiple font styles. If you notice that it's basically the same style all throughout. I use Verdana, and I'll explain soon why. I've also used a lot of white space. It doesn't necessarily mean it's white. It means it's unused space between chunks of text. It makes this easier for them to focus on the text that they need to be focusing on. In this case, because of this design format, it comes up automatically with all capital letters, but normally with a student with dyslexia, that would not be a good idea. Lowercase letters are better. You should also avoid bold letters and italics. And I also read somewhere, I can't find it now, but that underlining is not good. So I did go back and get rid of the underline in all the headings. Students with dyslexia don't like blinking or moving text, which is also found on slideshow presentations. I know a lot of teachers do that with the bells and whistles. They think it's cute, but this is actually very problematic for the dyslexic student. Another thing we can avoid is sans. We want to use sans serif fonts to avoid obscuring the shapes of letters. The little legs on serif font makes it a little confusing. The dyslexic student reads words by shape, and with the serifs, it sometimes makes it confusing for them. There are some fonts that we could use that would help them. For example, Tahoma, Verdana, Arial, and Trebuchet MS. These fonts, again, help them because they read by shape. They also are sans serif fonts. Sometimes there's other fonts. You can go on websites and find fonts that have for example, the line on a P where the L's are extended a little, and that helps them too. You want to make sure that there's contrast between the text and the background, like I have here. Notice that there's a dark background and I'm using white text. Okay, and you could do the same thing, have a white background and use dark text. But I think this looks better for presentation purposes. These are the sources that I used. I used the ones that Stephen gave us on the instruction page, and I looked into a few other things myself. I didn't list everything that I used because a lot of it was redundant. But for example, like I found the point about not underlining things, but I didn't feel that that was necessary to cite that source here. Okay, so I hope that you got something out of this, and thanks for reading.